All right. We got it. We got it scheduled. We're here. We did it. Another Confessions of a Street Broker. And this will be a very interesting story because it's not the most traditional path, I would say. But Chris Wong, Partners Real Estate. What's up, man?
How we doing?
Good. Good. So, I know we've been talking about doing this for a while, and now, had a couple timing things to get timed up, and here we are. So, kind of like you're the king of iOS now, man.
Yeah, well, that's what they say on the streets, I guess.
Yeah. So, no, it's I guess it's probably the most exciting, probably talked about asset class there is right now. So it's
It seems pretty hot right now. A lot of institutional capital, tenant demand. DFW seems to be at the center place of it all.
I think it's like, I saw like iOS list report. They're like, DFW is the number one iOS market.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the calls that we've had, catching up with people since we made the move has been Dallas, Fort Worth is the number one spot to be in from a capital standpoint. They want to all be here.
Yeah. Well, they can buy it all. They can buy all my stuff. Well, cool, man. This is about your story. So let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Right here.
Right here?
Dallas, Fort Worth. Yeah,
Let's
Dallas.
go.
Well, Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dallas.
Grew up in Dallas.
Grew up in Dallas.
Where'd you go to high school?
Highland Park.
Okay.
Scotty.
Scotty. Got your Scott on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Then where'd you go to college?
University of Kansas. Rock
University
Chalk.
of Kansas.
Yeah.
How'd you end up in Kansas? Just a big basketball fan?
Big basketball fan, but I had a buddy, actually Kevin Santalaria's son.
Okay.
Very good friend of mine. He was a massive Rock Chalk fan, and I think I visited during March Madness when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I was sold.
Yeah.
I was sold, and I wanted to get out of Texas for a little bit. And, it was great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I came back and went to TCU for grad school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you get your undergrad in?
Accounting.
Yeah. And then
Like
did you get a
focused.
master's
Focused
in
was
accounting?
in tax. No,
Yeah.
it was like a focus in tax.
Oh, okay.
Like after a few years.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
So were you thinking like going Big Four route or something like that?
I did go Big Four route.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, I went to finished up the master's program at TCU and went straight to Deloitte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in Dallas?
Here in
or-
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just cranking tax at that point, and
It was a weird role. It was mergers and acquisitions but like tax focused.
okay.
Yeah. It was a very small group of people around the country that were in it. It was like probably less than 15 people.
Yeah.
So I was traveling a little bit, and it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
Maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years.
It's funny, like people that go Big Four accounting, they either go for 2 years or forever.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah. The people that, more power to them, but you got to put your head down and really, really grind it out to be there for, long term. And those people do great. And there's smart people, obviously, that are involved in the accounting world.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting. I got my degree in finance, and I didn't really ever understand accounting. I took accounting classes, but I just never got it. It never really clicked with me until I owned my own company.
debits and credits?
I hated it. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I think I barely passed accounting in college, but now I'm like, I know where everything goes on every balance sheet. And, but that just came from owning a company, really, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of made you have to do it.
made you have to do it.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I think it's a very, I kind of almost look back and say, maybe I wish I would have just done accounting. Cause I think I've always here's the way I've thought about business degrees. I think if you go get a business degree, you should either do finance or accounting, because management, marketing, all those other things, you can figure that out. But finance and accounting is a little more specialized. And now I even almost have the opinion that you should probably just go accounting, because accounting knows finance, but finance doesn't necessarily know accounting.
That's what I was always told when
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what I was going to go do my major in, it was always, if you go accounting, you can always go back and do finance.
Yeah.
But if you do finance, it's tougher to go back into accounting.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do accounting.
So that's what, my son's getting ready to go to school. He's like, yeah, I want to, he's going to go to college in a year and a half or whatever. And he's like, oh, I want to do real estate. I'm kind of like, man, you need to do accounting.
Yeah,
Or-
get a good backbone.
Yeah. And, they offer and I wish I would have done this at Tech. They offered a dual accounting and finance major. Like, that's what I should have done. That's what I wish I would have done. But it's funny, I'm on the real estate council for Texas Tech, and I was like, that's a cool degree. It's a really good degree for real estate. You should incorporate a dual degree with civil engineering. Because if you knew how to do all this shit and then the civil engineering,
you'd be dangerous.
man.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. So I was like, y'all need to create this plan. I go, you would have some straight killers coming out of here.
Oh my.
So that's what, if my son's got the gumption for, I'd be like, you need to get both these if you want to be a badass.
Well, you could do a minor. You
Yeah.
could do a minor in business and I guess go engineer route.
Yeah. So but man, it's doing all these IOS properties, like, they come into play a lot because there's a lot of water issues with these buildings. Like, because
almost every deal.
Every deal.
Every deal.
Hell, the other day, the deal we just leased, the fucking last Saturday, is like water, brand new
Yeah.
finish out, flooded. Like,
I know that was.
and what sucks, I was telling on your client the other day, I was like, dude, I've owned this building 18 months. I go, do you remember how much rain we had last spring? I go, this never happened
Never
once.
happened.
And of course, now it happened. So it is what it is. But those sites, water's a real issue on these sites and where it can shift and move. It's not just go lay down some gravel and
Right. Especially the age of typically an iOS site on the
Yeah.
building. There's not any new sites, there's new sites coming up,
Yeah.
but they're, most of I would say the vintage buildings are what, 70s, 80s?
yeah, right.
That you're getting to buy, and things have changed, obviously, drastically.
Yeah. So, okay, back to your timeline. You're at Deloitte and you left. Where'd you go after Deloitte?
Hillwood.
Hillwood. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the shift?
I was still doing accounting, tax related stuff, and Deloitte was the role that I was in was, there was not a lot of oversight. And so luckily, without that, like I got my CPA, did my test, did my studying during when I was at Deloitte. And then about after 18 months, I got a role at Hillwood, but in their corporate tax group.
Oh, okay.
So I was working for a gentleman named Bud Kinnear, and it was a very, great company. Learned a lot there, and that's kind of really where I learned about like real estate.
Yeah.
Because they were doing a ton of that and developing and selling stuff, buying stuff, and tax was a part of every transaction.
Yeah.
Every transaction we would be brought into the deal to talk about tax implications, and so that's where I learned about real estate.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So how long were you at Hillwood?
about 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, right before they, literally probably, I want to say it was 2 or 3 weeks before they moved into their new building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went, I left there, and I got a tour of it though.
Yeah.
It was,
It's nice.
it's like, maybe I should change my mind and stay here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then where were you headed next?
Austin Industries.
Okay.
Yeah. So my father, he's an architect, worked at HCAS for a very long time, started his business, Deloitte Wong Architecture in 2007, maybe 2008.
Okay.
But he had worked with Austin for, I think it's been 40 years now. And so there was a gentleman there that I knew that was in their like business development, and I've known him for a very long time. And we just got to actually, the CFO at the time called me and wanted me to look at taking a position there to be their tax manager.
Okay.
And I told him no.
Okay.
And 3 months later, he was like, just come to the office. Let's go get lunch. Let's talk about it. So I was like, okay, let's do that. And did that and ended up moving over there in 2016. And, Austin is an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan. And so they have one, the tax manager at the time had been there for a very long time. He actually transferred the business to an ESOP in 1986, 87.
Okay.
And he had been there for, I guess when he left, it was about 43 years. And so I was taking his role.
Okay.
So he was there taking his role. And man, the first probably 2 or 3 months, I was like, I think I made a mistake, because the whole cool thing about tax is trying to figure out the loopholes.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how not to pay money.
Yeah.
And they were already doing that.
Yeah.
Because
they were completely optimized.
They had already figured that out by converting their business into an ESOP. And so the way that works is that Austin did not pay federal taxes to the government, but they do file returns. And so that business model, it's compliance. Everything was compliance. And so the way that it works is an ESOP owned by a trust. It's essentially like a retirement plan for your employees. As distributions get distributed to employees, it goes into an account that you basically can't touch until you retire or until you leave the company. And so once those distributions are once they're distributed to the employees, that's when it's taxed. So it's a deferred tax treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the dividend,
but it's a good way to retain people because people get to see an additional. I think we called it 15 to 20% of their salary put into this little bucket. Can't touch it, but it grows. It compounds and grows as the business does well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
Okay.
But first 90 days, I was like, okay, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it was, I'd say after 90 days, I kind of started digging into the real estate for Austin. And at the time, they didn't have a real estate department.
It's crazy because they own a bunch of stuff.
They own a bunch of stuff. They also
lease a bunch of stuff.
And at that time, it was, regional project managers or the region heads of each office would just handle their office lease, or if they needed to go procure space, they would just handle it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't centralized. And so I didn't get there at that, that first 60 days or 69 days that I was there, but I went to the CFO at the time. We had been in 3535 Travis Street since 1987.
Yeah.
And that was in 2017 when I went to him. And I was like, we need to buy this building. You've seen 3 different ownership groups own this building. Your rent is, X. And in 2 years, when your lease expires, you're going to be here.
Yeah.
And so I just did a pro forma for him. And I think August of 2017, so it was 8 months into my new gig, we bought a pretty sizable building.
That's cool.
Yeah. And they trusted me to run the process, and I really just kind of took everything that I did at Hillwood and was like, okay, what's due diligence?
Yeah.
And I got to get an environmental report. I've got to get all the rent rolls because there was third-party tenants, and we got to, there's all these contracts, and it was
that's pretty intense.
It was intense, and I learned so much from doing that transaction, and then we bought it, and we were a big piece of that building. I think we were at the time probably 56%, which was almost 60,000 feet of the building, and obviously location, everything about it was great. It was originally built for Muse Air back in the early 80s, and there was only one other tenant that was in it with us or prior to us.
Okay.
That's still there today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was my first ever real estate transaction.
So tell me about your first deal. I was like this probably $100+ million office purchase.
Wasn't quite that much, but it was definitely sizable.
Yeah.
It was definitely sizable, and looking back at it now, it's it is pretty crazy. They trusted this. I'm trying to think how old I was at that time. It was definitely my early 20s. And yeah.
That's
And
cool.
then from there, we started buying more real estate. And then eventually, probably 2 years later, brought in-house property management under my belt. And I was still, at the time, and still being the tax manager.
Yeah.
And I had, folks under me, and we had a third party that was doing some of our stuff. And yeah. So I had a little bit of a dual role.
So did you end up essentially creating the in-house real estate team to start, instead of letting the local regional guy, the assignment would come through you first, and then you would figure out how to go procure it going forward?
Slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly, that was, at first I didn't really know what we were doing. We were really trying to buy everything that we occupied.
Okay.
Because we were like cash heavy, no debt, and we were just like, we like real estate, and we intend to be in this location for forever. And so that was kind of the goal for the real estate department. And then as we continue to grow, we brought everything more centralized. It took a little bit of time to do that because, we were, leases are still kind of coming out of the woodworks. And it's like, oh, wait, we signed this lease 6 months ago. We didn't know about this.
Yeah.
So but it is centralized now, and they're, it's all being handled by property management and myself, and we even hired a security guard.
Yeah.
So that that's who we have there. He'd been a security guard at the building for a very long time, and we're told by tenants that he cannot leave.
Yeah.
So we hired him.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a very large iOS tenant. So that's probably kind of really what was kind of the tip of the spear for you for learning iOS at that point, right? I mean,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the very first just instance of learning iOS, which at the time didn't have an acronym, we had a building in Irving, and it was a concrete yard, it was a terminal, and Extra was leasing it from us. But no employees were there. I mean, they didn't even have bathrooms, no restrooms.
Yeah, that building was a mess.
They weren't using the building.
Yeah. Yeah, the building was total destroyed.
But there was trailers stacked in there like sardines.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember that. All the yellow, they were yellow trailers, right?
Central Freight was there before.
Oh, okay.
But then Extra started leased it, and this was probably 2017. They leased it for like 3 years, and they would pay like clockwork. And I knew that they had another location, I think it was just to the northeast. And it's like, what is this? Why are they paying? I think at the time it was probably $3,500 or $4,000 an acre, but there's no people here. The trucks and the trailers are here 6 months out of the year, and the other 6 months they're completely gone. And what I learned was around, call it right before Thanksgiving, is when they'd get super busy. They'd be gone.
So this was just parking them for Christmas time.
Well, no, they would be parked there. No, Christmas time, they'd be gone.
No, that's what I'm saying. But for the rest of the year, they're
the
just chilling there for Christmas time to show up, and they're going to need that.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a little bit of activity, them moving it around during the year, but for the most part, I mean, it was a full yard, and they had no use for the terminal. They weren't using the terminal. It was crazy to see what they were doing. And then, we did do some renewals with them. And then I remember when they left, we got another tenant in there, and I don't remember how they ended up getting in there, how we ended up leasing into them, but it was a Russian trucking company, and they didn't pay. And every time I had to go, we locked them out a couple times. Like every time I went over there, I was a little nervous. A little nervous.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you, they weren't doing anything. They were just like, they had these pallets and these boxes that they were moving around, but in the boxes, it was like, there wasn't really anything in them. So it was
Yeah.
an interesting business. And there was no bathrooms.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. What are y'all doing
yeah,
here?
what are y'all doing here? So we ended up kicking them out, and a pallet company showed up, I think, right around when COVID hit in 2020. Yeah.
Did the pallet company get in there?
Pallet company leased it. It was Pallet Ops.
Okay. You want to hear a funny story about that site?
Tell me.
So before y'all bought it, this was probably, when did y'all buy it? Like
2015-ish?
this was probably 2013.
Before me.
Yeah.
Before I was there.
So before y'all bought that site, I had a pallet company that wanted that site. And I was representing them, running around with them. Oh, and so I go to the city of Irving, and I was like, hey, we want to buy this site. We want to put a pallet company in there. I need to understand what outside storage is going to look like here. And, that site, it's kind of down gradient.
Yeah. It's hidden.
Yeah. And so they go, well, you're going to have to screen it. I go, well, it's literally like self-screened in a way, like being like, no, you have to screen it. I go, well, and then the rest of it is surrounded by trees.
Right.
And I said, so we just have to screen the front. And they go, no, you need to screen all of it,
The entire property.
the entire property. And I said, there's literally a forest there. And they go, we don't know what's going to happen to those trees. And I was like, okay, this conversation's over. So I go, what are you doing about TxDOT? And the guy looks at me like, what? I go, TxDOT. What are you doing about them? They're your tenant on Texas Stadium land, paying you $1 million a year, doing outside storage with no screening, and it looks like shit. We didn't get to buy the building after that. But I knew it was over. I was like, you asshole. So I'm shocked that they finally put a pallet company in there. But like it was
Yeah, and there's no screening.
no, it was, man, I'll tell you what, cities make this job unbelievably hard. Like,
I mean, they're making
and so much harder than it needs to be. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, they're creating the value for iOS.
yeah,
You know, I mean, zoning and just dealing with the city, like you talked about, it's a job in itself.
yeah,
And that is probably, I would say, the number one challenge for buying iOS is zoning.
yeah,
And by right, is it concrete? Is it gravel? Is my use approved here? And, it's not only a challenge for ownership, it's a challenge for tenants.
yeah. It's Jeff had bought a site in Haltom City and was going to gravel a yard, and the city's like, no, you got to concrete it. But his next door neighbor had all this construction equipment out there on a gravel yard. You know who the next door neighbor was? The city of Haltom City.
It doesn't count for them.
No, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
They're grandfathered in.
Yeah, whatever that means. Like,
We've been here for a while.
you know what's interesting as well too is Encore. You know, my dad's building over there in Grand Prairie that Encore was in for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they initially went in, and I might screw this up, Jeff knows more about it than I do, but they had to put a fence in, and that was part of their lease that they were going to put a new fence in or something. It's kind of weird. It's like normally the landlord's doing something, but my dad figures out a way to make other people do things. So, I think Jeff was like, well, where's the permit? And they're like, well, we don't have to obtain a permit because we're Encore. So the city was just like, no, y'all don't have to do that. But all of us have to do these things.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's a racket, man. Like, but and the unfortunate thing is the city is a business partner that you don't get to choose. Well, you can choose them by where you buy the property, but like,
Yeah, you don't choose the person you're talking to.
no, there's no other options. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is wild. You call the city and tell them, hey, I'm looking at this and this is the use. And like Haltom City, like you brought up Haltom City, they will straight up tell you, no, you can't do outside storage.
Yeah.
I've heard it multiple times on multiple sites. And the funny thing is, and I was talking about this the other day with some groups, and they're trying to figure out like where is the line on how much risk you take on a deal with zoning.
Yeah.
And I just, you kind of think about it from our point of view of doing these deals and being in the market and being with tenants and seeing that this is a need. And when you're surrounded by other like kind properties that are doing similar things, like that's where I'm kind of like, that's the line for me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I get they're saying this, but realistically, like when you go and apply for a CO and you go and talk to the city and you say, this is the tenant, this is what they're doing. And again, depending on what that use is and what that by right is, that's kind of how I look at the zoning stuff. But a zoning consultant reads the fine print
Yeah.
and puts a little summary together and sends it in an email, and it scares everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see it. I mean, everybody sees it constantly now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is too is I think what cities are trying to do is have items in their zoning ordinance that are like CUP type items for outside storage, and they are the ones that get to determine what your company is, not you telling them what your company is. And they will always try to push you into the CUP route. And then they're going to say, and by the way, we ain't approving it. So that's a big challenge. I mean, that was a big issue on the Holt site on 161 when we sold that like 10 or whatever years ago. But like we had to go through like Corby and them had to do like a 6-month process, screening, all these things, go to city council to get that approved. It was a fracking company there. Like, and just to re-tenant it was, I mean, it wasn't going to sit dormant. It was just going right in with the great operator, but it was a whole process. So yeah, it's a challenge.
Somebody's going to make a lot of money someday coming up with, and I'm sure AI is probably already working on it, but coming up with just you put in an address and it just tells you everything.
Yeah.
History of tenant, COs, approved, not approved.
Yeah.
Might be something for you and I to look into.
I'm actually going to show you something. Dude, this guy called me about sponsoring the podcast, and he sent me this software he built, and it's on the permit side, but it's pretty cool. So anyways, I had a demo with him yesterday, and I was like, all right, give me free access because I think I got a way to work this thing. I was like, if this is cool, then I'll start advertising on here. I was like, I don't have any advertisers, so like, just give me a login. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's going to be somewhere where it's like you can triangulate exactly what you can do there, and so that's going to be a big part of all this. But so that was the other thing too for me though, is like I was thinking about this with AI. City officials love to live in the gray with you.
Mm-hmm.
They love to give you an answer. They love to send you on these fool's errands, and then you come back and they switch people on you, and that guy's like, oh, well, you got to do this now, right?
Yeah.
I was like, can't AI just read your code and tell us exactly what has to be done, and let's just do that?
Yeah, it is very archaic. I don't really understand why they can't have a process for this stuff. It's with every city.
I think what they do too is they just try to intimidate. What they do is they go, oh, just read our ordinance, and it's 500 pages. But the thing is, ChatGPT can read that ordinance in like 2 seconds now. So it's like, at some point, there's got to be a win for the real estate guys here to be like, okay, here's this. And I think your point to COs, if you could go back and point to COs that are like, you CO'd this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can show a pattern, then you have an argument there. Like, well, you
Definitely.
did this here, so you should do this here. But that was my thought, was like get every ordinance from every city and build a matrix for this stuff. And so it's one of my ideas, but I got a lot of ideas, so which ones I execute. So anyways, we got off on a tangent off your timeline. So you're still at Austin. Y'all did that deal. And how did you make this transition over into brokerage?
The transition kind of came, I was trying to really liked being, on the principal side of things, even though it was for a larger company, but being able to guide the, buying real estate
Yeah.
and for Austin. Where I kind of came to a roadblock was Austin only wanted to buy stuff for themselves, not necessarily as an investment. And so
Yeah.
I was really looking at the investment side of things and doing underwriting. And a lot of it was office product. A ton of it was office. Getting, big rent rolls and looking at where can we push rents and what's the TIs. And obviously that's significantly changed.
Yeah.
With pricing fluctuations because of COVID, but we were looking at a ton of office, and I tried to put a fund together for Austin, and it was a great idea, but it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so after that, I just kind of was like, okay, what am I going to do? I really like my job. I really like the people that I work with. I get a lot of responsibility here. We're doing good and big things here, but I wanted more. I wanted to do more. And so I went to them and said, I want to start seeing if I can get other people to buy some of these deals that I look at. And so at that time, back to Kevin Santalaria, I've known him since I was probably 6, 7 years old.
Yep.
And so I called him up and said, hey, I want to see if I can do some brokerage. He said, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's how I got into it.
Yeah.
And I think my first deal with him, my dad bought a small little office building for his architectural business. I don't think that was the first deal, though. I think my first deal was actually with ML Realty.
Okay.
It represented a tenant in the design district, a moving company. I think it was Move Solutions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And put him in that building, and that was my first transaction
Is that on Quaker?
It was on Quaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So now you're in business. So for the begin, I remember when you kind of came on the scene, it was kind of like people couldn't like figure out, because you were still like the Austin guy, you know what I mean? And so it was weird, like you're a broker, but you're Austin's real estate tax guy. It was kind of how did you kind of navigate? Did anybody ever like question that really? Or did anybody even care, right?
I don't think anyone really cared. I'm sure I never really, no one ever really said anything.
Yeah.
My rules of engagement were just making sure that if I'm selling something to somebody or trying to buy something with somebody, that this is not an Austin deal.
Yeah.
And so, I just obviously started learning more about iOS, being a big user of it, and being around those types of clienteles and tenants was just kind of normal.
Yeah.
But I think, we were looking at the time, like, industrial outside storage and yards and shops and all of that. Like, we were looking for that for ourselves to consolidate. And so that was kind of a big piece of it, was while I was looking for that, I was just looking for other stuff too as well.
Yeah.
And obviously the institutional capital at the time was not there.
No.
It was kind of cowboy.
Yeah. So about that time, I was buying a bunch of buildings with Romy, and I was like, dog, I'm going to tell you something. You need to buy these things. I go, because because I started on Irving Boulevard, and I just ended up I called myself the maintenance facility guy, because that's what I thought. That's what I always called them. So it's a maintenance facility.
With yard.
With yard, yeah. So I did a couple off-market deals, and everybody's like, hey, you got my buddy a yard over there. Get me a yard. I'm like, oh, man, this is
You're
hard. The OG. I've done a lot of this back in the day, man. I was like, this is so hard. I was like, I only want listings. Like, this is, because they lease immediately. And, I was always leasing, I have that 4700 Irving Boulevard, that was like my first real deal in real estate. Like, that was my first real sell.
No way.
And that was, so at the time, that was like, you could have bought 50 acres on Irving Boulevard, all contiguous. When I got in the business, Yellow Freight had BK'd, and they had that whole chunk of land right there. And dude, it wouldn't move for shit. Like
No one wanted it.
No one wanted it. No one wanted it. I think Dave Danderin was selling it. No one wanted it. I was running around with a group that was the forms company that's there now. Oh gosh, why can't I think of their name? But they're in the terminal
CP or something.
Yeah. And I was running around with them, and I had them a building. You know, this is like my first year in the brokerage, and they're like, "Yep, we found a building." I was like, "Damn it!" They're like, "I thought we were doing this one." They're like, "Nah, we found a better one." And I was like, "Damn it!" I go, "Well, are you leasing it? Or are you buying it?" He goes, "Well, we have a guy that buys all of our buildings for us,
And then they lease them.
and they lease them from him. He's one of our clients. He's this guy builds high rises, and so they're all concrete forms. So I guess they're. So I was like, damn it, okay. Well, what are you buying? He goes, we're buying this 15-acre terminal with the shop on Irving Boulevard. I go, well, what do you don't need all that. That's too big for you. He goes, no, he's going to divide the other half off. I was like, dude, sell that to me. Will you please sell that to me? He goes, well, he's going to be in town next week. I go, what time? I will be there. And I get there and I show up, and my client was not bankable. He had BK'd a truck stop, so he couldn't get a loan, but he had cash. And I was like, and he was in a Prologis. He was in 151 Regal Row doing truck repair out in the, I mean, Prologis hated him, hated him. And so I met that guy there, and I was like, hey man, will you part off this 7.8 acres and sell us this thing and owner finance it to us? I go, we'll put like 35% down. He goes, yeah, I think so. So he did it. We closed that deal.
Made the deal there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right there. Paid like $1.1 million for it.
Same owner now?
Yeah, he still owns it.
Wow.
Yeah, my client still owns it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was and so then from then on, I was like, all these trucking companies that I was like, start doing these deals. And that's what I was telling Romy. I was like, dude, like we need to start buying these things, man. I'm telling you. And you know, I remember I got a building on Wildlife. My next door neighbor in Prosper, they owned a trucking company, and they had a trucking company and a brokerage business for trucking, and they sold their asset side. And then they're like, hey, we got this 8,000-foot shop on 4 acres. Like, is this worth anything? We paid like $300,000 for it. I go, oh, hell yeah. So I went and turned in my listing. I go, I'm going to list this for you. And so I turned in my listing report, and I was, you know, this is about the time when I was like, you would look at a building like that back then because you didn't know what it was. And you know, I turned it in. They go, are you not putting a junior broker on this with you? I go, no, this will be done in 24 hours. Boom, I put it out there. Sun State Rentals, full price offer next day. I was like, there you go. And so that's why I was always like, man, I want to own these things because the leasing is, it's so hard to find them, you know? So that's what I was just always comfortable. That's why I always ended up buying them. I always just want a building with yard. And then I kind of just grew up in one, right? Like my dad's building that he built in Grand Prairie for his steel company was 18,000 feet on 5 acres. Like, that's like
you were throwing the football in there.
I was born in an iOS warehouse, you know, clear span, grade level, drive through, full circulation. Like, you know, it's funny. Everybody comes and tries to buy that building off of Jeff and I. They're like, I want to buy that building off you. I'm like, this is like our only family heirloom. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's like
never sell it.
Never selling that thing,
sell it.
like ever. So, but it's a crazy product type. So like, and you got into like to the point where there wasn't an acronym at the time when you started in this. It was just a building with yard, you know?
I don't even know what we called it. I mean,
that's why
shop. We need a shop.
Yeah,
We need a shop with yard.
Cool. How many acres you need? How many bays you need? All right, cool. Let me go find it. So
yeah, and I mean, being in the construction business, you know, building highways, like you just need lay down yard sometimes for all of the equipment and all the materials to store. And you need it for, you know, this is how long my project is.
Yep.
This is how long I need it for.
Yep.
And I will not be renewing.
Yep. That's what I mean. I did drop lots all the time for trucking companies. You know, they're like, oh, you know, but they always occupied a ton of space. So I'd go I need 2 acres, park these trucks, okay. Like Rich Logistics, I'd go do his drop lots everywhere I could, and then they sold to whoever, the Central or
Somebody
whatever.
in Canada.
Yeah. And, so, but that was that's just all I worked on because I liked it. I thought it was cool. I was like, well, I understand this. I understand these buildings. And so I don't know. It's crazy to see what the asset class has done now, and it's wild to think like if you would have told me back then that the players that are in it now that will buy those things, I was like, those are the people that wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't even talk to me back then. Like I wouldn't even call them because I'm like, I can't call that ivory tower. Like they don't want a piece of shit on Irving Boulevard.
Now it's main on main.
Yeah, exactly. So, buzzing mic, but so you just start slanging these iOS. So you just kind of focused in those. Did you just kind of start feeling like, man, I'm just gonna focus right here on these things, and they're
yeah. I mean, at the time, same thing. Didn't really know. I mean, knew what it was and knew that there was a need for it, but it was like, who's going to buy these?
Yeah.
And there wasn't obviously the capital that there is today for these sites, but I mean, a lot of user stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of user stuff. And also, you talked about Romy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the first deal I did with them was, I think it was actually in Haltom City.
Yeah.
And it was we bought it and had under contract and then put under contract with a user.
That was the one you brought me and I whiffed. You remember that?
I do
You brought
remember
that to
that.
us and we fucking whiffed.
I do remember that. Well, yeah, because I remember talking about that with you guys and I think I can't remember what we thought the rent was. I think it was like a 25,000 foot building on 6.72 acres.
Yeah.
And I think we were saying the rent was, I think we were underwriting like 30 grand. I was like, yeah, we can get probably close to 5,500.
What?
Yeah.
That's been crazy too. Just like watching, like, how do you think about rents in iOS? Like, cause it's so hard to explain it. Like, I have a capital partner in Boston. Explaining an iOS site to them is like, so what are you charging on the building and the yard? Or I'm like, no, it's just like a number. that doesn't work.
It's just a monthly number.
That's just a number. So, but like, how do you think about that?
I'm glad you brought that up because there's no like science to it.
Yeah.
And there's no consistent way that anybody's doing, charging. But I look at, how big is the building?
Yeah.
How big is the yard? And then I look at that coverage ratio, I'd say anything under 10%, like that is a per acre per month deal.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to price that thing. And then kind of in that, call it 10 to 15% range, like depending on what the functionality of the building is and then how much outside storage you have, you could blend it. Where you're blending the building and the outside storage is really when you kind of get closer to that 20% range. Yeah. And then anything above 20 to 25% is where, how much does this standalone building cost? How much outside storage do I have? And blend the two together.
Yeah.
And that's, typically on those deals, we'll send it out to groups we typically would just say, here's the monthly amount.
Yeah.
You don't need to know the rate. Here's the monthly amount.
Yeah. But
on bigger buildings with bigger coverage ratios, it's price it by to the building.
Yeah. How do tenants value crushed rock, asphalt, concrete? Is there any premium, or is it as much as you would like? I guess is the premium relative as the cost difference between putting concrete down versus crushed rock?
I think there is definitely a premium. But I don't necessarily think that, like, on a bigger site, like, I see it on the smaller sites, being where, like, you have a smaller site and you have concrete versus if you had smaller site, same site, neck and neck together. But this one has concrete and this one has gravel. I think the gravel will have a premium.
The gravel will have a
I
premium.
mean, sorry, the concrete will have
Okay.
a premium. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
And like we did, in my quarterly reports, year-end reports that I just put out, like we really dug into the data, and like there's a pretty big delta on, especially on like the smaller sites. And then you look at like peel out like what's the yard, what's the functionality, is it on the highway, where is it located, and then you kind of like we really peeled the data back and looked at it, and it's a pretty interesting exercise.
Yeah, I mean,
do.
There's so much nuance to it to like really be able to like triangulate in on how to peg a rent on.
Oh, and that's why I think that brokerage, the broker world, and what you and I are doing on the brokerage world are so important to these groups that are buying iOS, is because every deal is different.
Yeah.
I don't view any iOS deal as the same. They're all different.
They are. They're all different.
It's not like you can go on some database and search for, like for traditional warehouses, you can go and put in 50 to 60,000 feet in CoStar, and you'll get 100 plus, sites to look at and to choose from. And they're all pretty similar. They'll have however many dock doors they have. This is the clear height. They're all similar.
Yeah.
But for iOS, there's no deal that's the same.
No, I totally agree. That's what people are like, well, how do you price this? I was like, it's kind of like feel. I don't know.
It's
like,
feel.
It's a lot
it
of
really
feel.
is feel. It's being in the market, and it's experience. And one thing that I love about what we do is that nothing is the same.
Yeah.
And it's always a pricing exercise to figure out like what comps are the best ones that relate to your property that you're using, that you're going to buy or lease or whatever that it is. And I think that, data is the most important thing in real estate. And I think that, again, somebody will make a lot of money on the data and extracting the data.
Right. Well, you're back to working loopholes like you wanted to work in tax. You're working loopholes and rents. It's how do you really pin this thing down, right?
Right.
It's hard to tell. Here, let me ask you about this. This is kind of something interesting. Get your opinion on this, because the building I own on Bethlehem. Multiple buildings. I think I kind of blamed it on. We didn't hit our mark on there. We got it leased, at least to a Greco, so we got a great tenant in there. I mean, and they are in there. There's generators. They're like, they found a building down the street, and they're like, we all go buy that and lease it to us. So we're like, okay, so we put an offer on it. I think looking at it now, I think we just, as an operator, we kind of poorly executed that thing. And that's on me for that. But there was also some question about multiple building site. How do tenants view that? Do they?
I think it depends on the use.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to tenants about, we don't want our office and our warehouse people to be in the same building. But I've also heard it. Like I was at a building the other day that I'm selling. And I asked the tenant, he's moving out to a new building. It's actually Highland, Texas.
Yeah. Where'd you move them to?
We moved them to a site out in Balch Springs.
Oh, okay.
So short term deal. But then a user wanted to buy the building, so we're under contract on it. And I was walking through there, and it's like, "How is it working for you guys?" And he was like, we really, it's nice, but we really don't like being separated.
Yeah.
In these 3 different buildings, it's really not functional for us to be separated like this.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to hear that, because he's in the office, it's an office building, and then you have another warehouse here and another warehouse here. And so, and I don't know if it's just like, oh, you got to walk over here and talk to these guys, or if it really truly is like being separate from them is like distorting the business.
Yeah.
But then I've also heard the other way where people are like, yeah, we don't want the office people to be or we don't want the warehouse and shop people to be in the office.
Yeah.
So I've seen it both ways.
Just
I think it's just
user specific.
Yeah,
huh?
it's user and business specific, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that was something that I thought was nuanced. Now that I look at what it is now, like as a living, breathing site with a tenant, I'm like, man, we didn't get our CapEx done quick enough. Like we just kind of that was just kind of some stuff like that where I was just like, I just didn't get this ready.
The CapEx make ready is so important,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to do it, right?
Right.
You've got it in your underwriting.
Yep.
I think that these tenants, I mean, they're like you and I. When they go to the office, they want to, you know, sit somewhere a little nice and a little decent. And if it looks like shit,
Yeah.
they're going to say something and they're going to be like, well, this is not move-in ready. And it's just, it gets in their mind of like, but if you have it clean and white and bright and all of those things, like it's optics.
Yeah. No,
optics.
it's you know, construction is probably the biggest drag on being on the principal side. I mean, it just sucks. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, we've been living it for the last 60 days in Walton Walker, you know, and it's everybody's just trying to get in, right? And
Well,
construction just takes time.
It takes time. I had the joys of doing a add-on and renovation to my personal house, and yeah, I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No.
And so, you know, correlating that to business, it's the same thing. It's just you're trying to get these tenants in, get them paying rent, and materials are taking longer, or they didn't do this right, or you get flooding.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many variables that you
Right.
run into, and it's, you know, sometimes it's like, I can't do anything about this.
Yeah.
You know, what do you want me to do? You're yelling at me, you're screaming at me, but I can't change the timeline.
Yeah.
It's a trickle down effect. You
Yeah.
know, if you don't bring me this shingle, you know, it's a trickle down effect. Okay, now the building's wet, and now the floor. I mean, it's just it's a trickle down effect.
Yeah. So, well, you've recently made a move.
I have.
Tell me about it, or tell us what you can about it.
I can. Yeah,
Okay,
of course. Well, I've been wanting to do something for a very long time. You know, probably at least 3 years, and I think that I probably could have made a move 2 years ago, but I think I really, over the last 12 to 18 months, I really wanted to talk to a lot of different groups, great groups, but I wanted something to where I could make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I thought I was going to, you know, similar, start my own business.
Yeah.
You know, the summer last year, 100% was going to go out on my own, do my own thing. And I'm glad that I did not, because switching and doing all these things and, you know, just all of the pieces that have to come together it's more complicated and way more time consuming than anyone really I ever thought.
Yeah.
And so partners, I started talking to partners on an existing deal that I was working with on somebody from Houston, and I was in Houston, I think sometime in the first quarter of last year, and he said, you know, why don't you come to the office and just say hello to, you know, John? And I was like, sure. So I met him there like 7:30 a.m. and we just got to talking and really enjoyed like hearing about, you know, where the platform and what they've built and what they're going to be, you know, growing into. And so I was like, sounds great. And I thought I was going to probably, you know, before that, I thought I was going to go more institutional route and be more capital markets side of things with iOS, and which is, it's not matured yet, but it's going to get there, as you already know.
Sure.
And it was really just about like cultural fit and providing, you know, resources and value and being able to like grow my business and grow what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, like in 20 years, like I want to own some buildings.
Sure.
You know, I want to be a part of building ownership, and the way to get there, I think, is being able to do it your own way.
Yeah.
And so that was a big piece of me moving, getting a little bit more structure and, actually going full time
Yeah.
and not having 2 hats to wear or sometimes 3.
So do you still represent Austin like on stuff, or do they just have their own in-house guy now that does it, or kind of a little bit of both?
We will be representing them
Yeah.
moving forward. I don't know if I will be replaced.
Yeah.
We built it to be a little bit of a machine. Obviously, you have to run the machine, but they're active in all of the stuff that they're doing. They're growing like crazy, and but from their perspective, it's as we need it.
Yeah. Well, it's a great group of dudes over there. I love Haynes and Jax and Thomas are like bros now. They're like butt buddies. They're always talking, so that's cool. I like Jax a lot. He came up here and just called on me one time. I was like, hey, I just want to meet you. He came up here and talked to me. I was like, man, you're gonna be good. So he's out there hustling, and me and Haynes done tons of deals together. So I'm excited for you, man. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, I mean the really what I really like about partners is like they really give you the tools and the resources to do your thing.
Yeah.
But it's even bigger than that. Like we are going to brand Partners iOS.
Oh, that's cool.
And so if you're doing iOS in Texas, we have coverage in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Austin.
Yeah.
And then, they opened up Atlanta, and there'll be a few more strategic locations that will be opened over the next, 12 to 18 months. And so I view it as if you are doing iOS in Texas, there's no other company to go to.
Yeah.
There's other companies to go to.
Sure. But like, yeah, no, I mean, it's you're the forefront of it right now, for sure. So, I mean, it's you touched on something that I want to talk about though that I think is needed. Being a consumer is the capital market side. I was interviewing one firm, and they've done a bunch of this stuff. And, there was a couple things we were negotiating over on the listing agreement and all these things. But like, as we were going through that negotiation, we started talking about the portfolio more and more and more. And man, I did not hire them, and what really turned me off, they didn't know the product. They know capital. They don't know the product, and this is a very nuanced product.
100%. I think you have to be in the market with transaction experience and history, not just on the sales side.
Yeah.
Leasing, tenant rep, agency.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's very nuanced asset class, and capital, dealing with those. I mean, you have to get them comfortable.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to know the product.
Well, and so here's what I took away from it. And here's a big reason I fired them. Or I didn't hire them. You hooked us up with a group to talk to, right? And we talked to them. It was interesting. They're not in iOS, but man, they want to get into it, right? Mm-hmm. So they're a larger PE. They have to buy a platform to get started, right?
Yeah. They have to make a big splash.
Yeah,
for it to make sense, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a platform. That's how all PE works. Bolt on, sure, small deal. Platform has to be a big deal. So, in talking to them with the platform, and then this other broker had told me, hey, I'm going to run a real tight process. I'm like, you're going to like call Altera? Like, is that what you're telling me? Like, you're going to call Altera and Ambient and like, I mean, like, okay. And so I hung up that call with the group you hooked us up with, and I was like, that guy will never see this if I hire this guy. Not that I necessarily want this guy to buy it, because he would probably be more like a recap and be a business partner, but I mean, like, people are getting into this. And what I realized, and this guy never said this, but what I deduced from it all at the end of it was, I said, well, hey, I talked to these guys and you weren't even going to market to them. He goes, well, they take too long to understand it all. I'm like, but you can't explain it to them. That's the issue. I was like, so like, I don't think I'm hiring you because I don't know that you can explain it. And so I went with someone else who obviously still too hasn't done it, but I feel like they'd at least driven all my assets. And like, you know, so I have to go with a capital markets guy for this thing. But my whole point is, I think there is a big opportunity for someone to take over the capital markets that knows it from a operational standpoint.
100%.
Because look, capital is capital. Money is money. But like this is the actual functioning operation of the business. So like if there's many people that are getting into this, I think the capital markets guys need to take a fucking listen and say, hey, we need to actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's too nuanced, as you've already said, to not know what you're talking about when you're selling this.
I mean, I named off one of my tenants, and he goes, it was a Greco. He goes, how's their credit? I go, you don't know who this is? I go, well, everyone you're going to call probably leases a building to them. Like, and then he goes, then one of them was Southern Tire Mart. He goes, how's their credit? I was like, again. So like, I mean, when I heard that, I was like, man, I'm fixing to pay you what? Like, you can't explain this to people. So I think there's a big need for that. Like, I think if someone needs to marry operational and capital there together, like create a really good capital markets team. So
I think 100%.
So.
And you know, I was planning on doing that, but you know, I like to be in the streets.
Yeah, that's fun.
You know, it's just doing that, and putting everything, you know, all the puzzle pieces together and finding the deal, and you know, the capital markets is great. I get it.
Yeah,
and
you're in the office all day though.
You're in the office all day,
yeah.
and you're on the phone. I mean, we're on the phone all day either way,
sure.
but you're talking to capital versus talking to the people that are actually needing what you're selling or what you're leasing.
Yeah,
and I think that like being in the street, obviously, is you know the market.
Dude, it's you know, Will has an initiative this year to just drive every Friday. He's like, every Friday I'm just driving neighborhoods, you know? And like, it's like, he comes back with like 15 ideas. Let's make an offer on this build. Like, man, this build, you know, I'm like, dude, that's all I ever did. Every Friday I just drove my market and knew it. And I think it's to be a real buyer of B and C product. You got to go out there and look at it a lot.
Yeah, you can't,
you know?
I mean, it's great to look at it from a Google map shot, but you really don't know the site unless you see it.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that, you know, clear heights, for example, and door heights and door widths and access. What's the fencing like? I mean, there's just so many things that make a site a leasable site.
Yeah.
And then even pushing it further, a premium leasable site.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you better go out there and look, because I'll tell you what, I like going out there and looking too, because sometimes it's back to feel like our old Denton building. I just went and toured it. I go, just buy it. I go, this will lease immediately. Like, I just write it up.
Yeah.
You want to negotiate? No, not really. Like, just buy it. Like,
buy it. Yeah.
And so, you know, we leased that in 37 days or whatever, you know.
Incredible.
And so, well, I like to rifle through a couple questions for you. So you got to make a lot of cold calls and this stuff. You got an awkward or funny cold call, or maybe a funny tour story that you got?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a handful, but probably the craziest tour that I've ever been on was on Irving Boulevard, actually.
Yeah.
At the old Beaver Express terminal.
Oh.
You know, we were, I think after I sold it, we were leasing it. It was before all the make ready stuff got done. And I don't remember what tenant we were walking with, but we were in the building and hear this noise, and there's like,
they were living there.
There's somebody like living in underneath the underneath the building.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you can see there's like it's a big brick cement building, and in the office piece of it. And there was someone in there.
Yeah.
And so we called the cops and they evicted him. But he was like, oh no, I got to get my stuff. And so he went back down there and got a trash bag of stuff. And it's like, wow, that is crazy.
Well, so I sold that building to him. And then you sold it for him,
Yes.
For MP. But I just remember walking in there. MP came down after he bought it. He never even looked at it. He just bought it. And like we're walking in there the first time, and you could smell the meth, like you could smell it, and then we could hear all this noise, and they're like jumping out the front door. We're walking in. So that was wild, man. But yeah, they were like people lived in the front of that building for couple of years because he didn't do anything to it. He was like gonna have to drop all this money on it. I got him all these contractors, and he didn't do shit. Isn't that funny? That's a funny thing in real estate too, where you just don't do anything.
You don't do anything. You make money.
He made a bunch of money.
Make a bunch of money. Yeah. No, it's a great business model.
Yeah.
You can't live by it, but it's a good business model.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a wild. I had the same thing happen there, man. It was wild. But I was like, man, I'm fixing to get enough something with somebody.
Yeah, there's probably some interesting stories that went around for that building because I know that it got flipped or sold like 3 times in 4 years.
Yeah,
maybe,
it was wild.
Maybe even less.
Yeah, we bought it off some group out of New York.
Criterion, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you sold it to
Binya.
They still own it, right?
They still own it.
Okay.
Yeah. Then they did a beautiful make ready.
Yeah.
And we've leased it to Napa, and then we have another just kind of a month or 60-day, 90-day guy.
Yeah.
That leases some doors, but we got some doors available.
Yeah. There you go. Terminals are a little tougher right now, huh?
There's just, I think, from my purview, and you probably feel the same, there's just a lot of inventory out there. And as you know, the trucking business, the LTL world is just not, it's not what it was a few years ago and even prior to that. Yeah. So I just think that there's a lot of inventory out there right now.
Yeah, probably. What's like your favorite, most unique deal you've ever pulled off?
Favorite, most unique deal? Man, I'd probably say it's the J Small deals.
Okay. Yeah. You just did this.
I just did that.
So, yeah.
A few months ago. And I had been obviously, when I put Greyhound into their Harry Hines building, I'd always, talked to Charlie and was like, hey, like, when y'all sell it? And they were like, we would sell it, but it has to come with the other Irving Boulevard property. And this is our pricing, you know, and they had it out, I think in 2022 with, I think it was Cushman or maybe JLL, and they were marketing it as multifamily.
Yeah, they wanted to do a multifamily.
And they were, this is multifamily price per foot on the land, and that was their pricing. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from Charlie in August, and he was like, you have 5 days.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and they have to hit this, these targets, timeline. And so it was like the quickest, craziest deal that I've been chasing for 3 years.
Yeah.
And, obviously with Greyhound, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that Greyhound built in front on the land that J Small owned, in front of the fence company that I sold. Yeah. They built a terminal and moved the downtown location to that location. Yeah. And when people out of state were looking at it like, well, this is that pricing and it's 9 acres, but there's this raw piece of land that's just sitting there. They didn't know that it was getting built. Yeah. You had to actually go see it physically. Yeah.
Back to going out there.
And so, obviously Dolphin is local and they're in the market, and they bought it, and it was I think it was like a 25-day, maybe 30-day, but it was a 5-day close. So it was just like quick, and it all hit. Yeah. That's probably like the quickest deal. I'm trying to think of like any other wild deals. That Romy deal that you missed out on Beach Street was a pretty good one, and that was early on. So we were like, "This is awesome! Like, what is this?" Yeah. But I think that building today is probably worth, $2 million more than what we sold it for to that group. I really do.
So here's you want to. I'm gonna tell you a story of over brokering. 2959. So that building, I'd sold Southwest International several buildings on Irving Boulevard, and there was a truck upfitter in that building. It's like AG Truck Equipment. I can't remember, something like that. And I was like, I heard someone told me, oh yeah, they just signed a 60,000-foot lease out at the airport. And I was like, oh shit. Ran down the street, Southwest International. I was like, hey, this is a prime ass property. Me and Russ go down there and look at it. We get back in the car and he goes, sign it up. So we sign a lease, or we get a lease going. And they had this broker, this guy named Jay Cantor. He was like a tax fighter guy, or fight your taxes, whatever. But he had his broker's license, and he had a relationship with this guy out of Las Vegas. And we tried to buy it, didn't want to sell it, we get the lease going. I was like, well, can we just have a right of first refusal? I mean, like, because we put a ton of money into that facility with the fuel island and all the infrastructure. And he was like, this broker's like, we don't give right of first refusals. I was like, well, this kind of helps us too, man. Like, no, we don't do these. Well, he goes, and he's never selling. Okay, cool. Lo and behold, get a notice. I get a call from Ideal Lease one day. Hey, this guy named Jay Small just bought the building. Do you know him? I'm like, I was like, you idiot. If we would have had a roofer, we would have got a shot at this.
Yeah.
But you over-brokered this. I mean, he was so hard on that roofer. And I was like, so anyways, they're like, well, can you call Jay and ask him where to pay rent? So I called Jay and I was like, hey, man, just need to know where to pay rent. He's like, are you telling me you're their broker? And I was like, I am their broker. I'm just asking you. I'm not paying you a fee. And I was like, I'm just asking where to send the rent. It's so funny. But yeah, they missed buying that. They would have bought that building and would have owned it forever. If this guy didn't I just immediately went back to that. I was like, man, you over brokered the shit out of this thing. Anyways, is what it is.
Never sell. Those are the famous last words.
Yeah. Next thing you know. So, here's a question I've been asking lately that I like to ask. Have you been fired from an assignment?
One.
What happened?
So I had it under contract. I was selling it, and we had it under contract with a user. And I kid you not, the day before closing, the user was being repped by somebody. And so they had a broker, and we were representing the seller. The user sent an email saying, like, what's this access easement? And then, said, hey, we need some time here to figure out what this is. And I think my client at the time, we were like, we literally just signed the closing documents, and like, we're closing in less than 24 hours. Like, what are you talking about? And it went into this whole commotion of that, they got we sent them our survey, within the period of time that, you're supposed to send it on the docs, and I just don't think that they ever read it.
Probably
and the client at the time, they asked for some time to figure it out. They still wanted to buy the deal, and our client at the time didn't want to give them time.
Yeah.
And so it got dropped. He got some earnest money, but they called me and said that their investors wanted to make a change.
Just because that deal dropped?
I don't really know what if it was the deal dropped, or if it was, I learned that another company picked it up immediately. Yeah. So I think probably somebody called.
Was that your heels on it, and some other brokers are coming right behind you? Yeah.
And we were like, I think we were this was not the same user, but we were negotiating a contract for Tesla for like 90 days for them to buy it before this. Before that contract. So like, we had really good activity, and I wasn't going to fight it, but I didn't really get a real reason other than my investors want to make a change.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
The worst, like, I'm a big boy, I can handle it, but just tell me why.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And it's funny because some people just won't give it to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's disappointing because you can't get feedback out of it, right? That's
Yeah.
not real feedback.
Yeah,
you know?
no. Well, it still hasn't been sold, so.
Well, maybe you should call them back.
I was just on the phone with him.
You want to run this back? Oh, well, man, thanks for coming in today, man. This is great hearing your story. It's
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we got to do this. This is what's cool is, like, I like having people on first to tell their story, and then I like having them on again because there's just so much always going on and always to talk about. So I'm ready for you to come back already. So it's I'm really excited for your new role. Like I have no doubt. I mean, it's like I think of you as the first person in iOS that's just like, when we assigned our portfolio, I said, call Chris for MLAs. You don't need to call anybody else. So. Thank you for working on that with us, but man, it's fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Chris Wong, everybody. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.